The first time the crew watched the footage back, nobody could see what had actually happened. Bruce Lee threw a punch, and on screen, his opponent simply fell down. No impact, no motion, no blur of a fist crossing the frame. Just a man standing, then a man on the floor, as if gravity itself had decided to take him out. The cameras of 1966 weren't lying. Bruce Lee was moving faster than they could record. Los Angeles, 1966. Bruce Lee had just landed his first major American television role, playing Kato in The Green Hornet. This was the opportunity he had been chasing since arriving in the United States. A real network show, real exposure, a real chance to show American audiences what Chinese martial arts actually looked like instead of the clumsy, slow-motion fight choreography that dominated westerns and crime dramas at the time. He came into the production confident. He had trained his entire life for moments like this. What he didn't expect was that his speed would become a technical problem nobody on the crew knew how to solve. The first fight scenes were shot the way every other fight scene on American television was shot, at the standard frame rate used across the industry, around 24 frames per second. That frame rate works fine for normal human movement. It struggles badly with movement that happens faster than the human eye, and the camera shutter can fully register. When Bruce Lee threw a punch or executed a kick at full speed, the motion happened between frames. The camera caught the moment before the strike and the moment after, but almost nothing of the strike itself. According to accounts later detailed in biographical research on his life, Lee was deeply disappointed the first time he reviewed the dailies. He had performed the choreography exactly as planned, full speed, full power, technically precise. On screen, none of that translated. His opponents appeared to collapse for no visible reason. There was no sense of impact, no readable mechanics, nothing for an audience to actually watch and process as a fight. To anyone unfamiliar with what they were looking at, it simply looked broken. The crew brought the problem to Lee directly. They needed him to slow down. For a martial artist who had spent his entire life refining speed as one of his core advantages, the request was almost insulting on its face. Speed wasn't an accident or a stylistic flourish for Bruce Lee. It was the product of years of specific training, exercises built around reaction time, explosive first movement, and economy of motion that let him generate maximum velocity with minimum wasted effort. Asking him to slow that down felt like asking a singer to flatten their best notes, because the recording equipment couldn't handle the range. But he understood the practical reality facing the production. A fight scene that didn't register as a fight scene on camera was worthless, regardless of how technically impressive it had been to witness in person. So Lee adjusted. He began deliberately throttling his own speed during takes, performing strikes at a fraction of what his body was actually capable of, just enough to let the standard frame rate catch the motion in a way audiences could follow. Even slowed down, the results were inconsistent. Some takes still came back blurred, motion smeared across multiple frames into something that looked more like an editing error than a punch. The crew eventually pushed for a different technical solution rather than relying entirely on Lee restraining himself. Certain sequences were shot at a higher frame rate than standard television production used at the time, recording more frames per second so that fast motion could be captured with more fidelity, then played back at normal speed in post-production. This is the same basic principle used decades later for slow-motion sports replays, just applied here for the opposite reason, to make naturally occurring speed visible rather than to dramatically slow it down for effect. The combination worked well enough to get The Green Hornet on air, though Lee remained privately frustrated with how much of his actual ability the show was capable of showing. Kato's fight scenes were faster and more technically grounded than almost anything American television had produced before, and audiences noticed, even if they had no idea the version they were watching was already a deliberately restrained one. Fan mail to the studio reportedly singled out Kato's fight scenes more than any other element of the show, even though the series itself struggled in the ratings and was canceled after a single season. The problem didn't disappear once Lee left American television behind. It followed him to Hong Kong, where his film career would eventually make him a global star. Hong Kong productions generally used film stock and shooting techniques better suited to fast action than American TV equipment of the same era had been, which gave Lee considerably more room to perform at closer to full speed, without the same level of compromise. But even there, directors and cinematographers had to think carefully about camera placement, lens choice, and frame rate. Whenever Lee's signature strikes, the snapping kicks, the rapid 5 and 6 punch combinations were involved. He wasn't just fast for an actor. By multiple accounts from people who trained and worked alongside him, his reaction time and raw hand speed were near the outer edge of what a human body could produce, the kind of speed normally associated with elite boxers operating at the peak of their careers, except applied across a far wider range of strikes and angles than boxing alone requires. One of the most cited examples of this speed lives outside any film set entirely. Lee was famous among martial artists and witnesses for his 1-inch punch, a strike that traveled barely any distance before contact, yet still managed to generate enough force to send a person backward off their feet. The demonstration looked almost like a magic trick to people seeing it for the first time, not because the mechanics were mysterious, but because the amount of force generated in such a short distance defied what most onlookers assumed the human body was capable of producing. It's the same underlying principle that caused problems on camera. Bruce Lee's body could generate and release force faster than most observation methods, mechanical or human, were built to register clearly. What makes this footnote in his career more interesting than a simple trivia fact is what it reveals about the gap between Bruce Lee's actual ability and what the world was even equipped to perceive. Television cameras in 1966 weren't primitive by the standards of their time. They were industry standard, used successfully on dozens of other action shows without complaint. They simply weren't designed with the assumption that a human being might move faster than the format could comfortably display. Bruce Lee didn't just challenge expectations about what an Asian actor could do in a leading role, or what martial arts technique could look like in American media. In a very literal, mechanical sense, he challenged the limits of the recording technology of his era, and the industry had to bend its own tools around him just to keep up.